Okay, hello and welcome. This will be a quick little tutorial to get you guys to do the last part of the assignment 1 for ARCH232, which requires you to lay out an Illustrator document or a board in Illustrator. I'm just going to show you how I would do it. This should take about hopefully 5 or 10 minutes. This is what you get when you open Illustrator. Go ahead and close this window and just click File, New. And this is where you can specify the size of the artboard that you want to create. The one we want is going to be 40 inches by 31.5 inches. So make sure you have this little inches selected, and then just type 40 and 31.5. Leave everything else the same for now, and just click OK. So we now have an artboard that is 40 inches long by 31.5 inches tall. To make this a lot easier, and as you can see on the syllabus or the assignment, Mike kind of gridded it out according to a few dimensions. To make that a lot easier, to set yours up the same, we're going to want to turn on rulers. Just go to View, Show Rulers. Hopefully that's the same for CS5. Just View, Show Rulers, or Control R, and as you can see, these little guided rulers popped up, so you can see at what XY sort of coordinate, or well, with inches, but XY coordinate your cursor is at. And what we're going to do is just drag down some grid lines, or some guidelines that they're called. So if I click on this top ruler right here and I drag down, you can see it pulls down a little guide. I can pull them down anywhere. I can create a bunch of them, and they're actually kind of tough to see, but if you just select them, there you go, you can see that I just created some guides. So these aren't going to get printed. They're not an actual line on your document. They're just guides. If I were to print it right now, it would just be a blank document. But what we're going to do is use these to just help us align the images that we place. So I'm going to actually go ahead and delete these, and we'll create them one by one. I dragged a box over them and I clicked delete. So drag down one from this axis, and once you place it, you can still move it around if you highlight it and drag it around. But we want it to be at 5 inches from the top of the artboard. So I'm actually going to click this, and you could drag it and try to line it up over here. You could try to get it right at where you want it, but it's actually a lot easier if you just select it and type in where you want it exactly. So this one would be at 26.5 inches from the bottom, actually. So it's measuring, if you see, this would be like 0 and 0. So we want it 26.5 inches up, so it gives us a 5-inch gap up here. So I just what I did there was select it, go to the Y coordinate or Y value, and just type 26.5, and then hit enter, and it'll move it for you right there. So we're gonna go ahead and drag a few of those down, and we'll specify the values of them in a second here. The next one is at 26. It'll give us just a tiny gap between those two, and then another one at 21, another one at 17, and it looks like we don't need this one. I had one too many. So we have two 5-inch, and I'll highlight these so you can see them. We have a 5-inch gap there, a little gap in between. I think I just made it a 1/2 inch. Another 5-inch gap here. I don't know what this gap is, but the bottom one is 17, so it lines up like the grid that Mike drew up. And now we're going to drag some from this side too. So click on this side's ruler, pull over a couple of these, just throw some out there, and we'll give them a value here. We want a 20-inch box, so select this one, and now we're going to type it in the X value. Just type 20. It'll move that over right to 20 inches. We want one at 20.5, just a little bit further. 20.5 in the X value, hit enter, and we want one more at 35.5. So now we have 20-inch gap here, 15 here, and then 17 here. You can see them all creating just rulers to help us place our images. We'll go ahead and start placing some photos. If you go File, Place, and I'm just going to use some images from a really old model. So maybe I want that one. It's going to bring it in way too big. To scale it down, or well, you can click and drag and move it around. To scale it down, you use these little corner handles, but as you can see, as I'm scaling it, it's changing, or it's distorting the shape really bad. So I'm going to undo that, get back to where I was, Control Z, keep on hitting Control Z till I get back, and now I'm going to hold Shift. If you hold Shift and resize it, it'll do it uniformly so you won't get any distortion. And we want to place this right up. Let's say this is one of our, what do we have in the top? Images of original wood and SketchUp model, so original wood model. We'll place this right up in the top. And just line it up with our grid line to keep it nice and clean. There are some little tricks to help you line things up. One of them would be to say View, Show Grid, which just creates a grid over everything, like that. It kind of makes our guides difficult to see, but you can always select them to make sure you know where they're at. And then, so we have a grid on. That was View, Show Grid. And I also want to snap to grid. So this is kind of like AutoCAD's snapping command, but a little less intuitive. Just snap to grid, select that. So now when I move this image around, you can see it kind of jumps to where those grid lines are. It makes it a little bit easier to line things up. And just continue placing your images in the top row. We'll use that one. Shift, and okay, I'm going to point out something that happened there. If you hold Control, this is not what we're looking to do. Make sure you hold Shift, and that'll give you the transform. And we're also still using just regular selection tool up here. There's a couple different ways you can select things, but just we're using the basic one right now. I've zoomed in and out a couple times. I should probably explain how to do that. You can use this little magnifying glass down here, and you can click once or drag a box and it zooms in. I think if you hold Shift, Control, or Alt, if you hold Alt, you can zoom out. It's actually way easier if you just keep your selection tool and hold Alt and mouse wheel in and out. So I'm holding Alt right now, mouse wheel in and out. On a Mac, I suppose it would be the Option key, or the Mac, whatever that key is. Drag this one into size. Okay, so you can continue placing images like that, and just make sure that they line up within your grid lines. Here's sort of what I was talking about, where it's easier to snap when the grid snap is on. And you'll do that for the top part and all the way across, and for right here, and then you'll place more of your images in this box and in this box. I'll show you one more quick trick for placing them really consistently if you want. I'm not sure if we have to do this, but I'll show it to you because it's a nice way to crop things in Illustrator, which isn't actually very easy, but super handy. I'm going to delete these for the time being, and I'm going to go ahead and draw a box, clicking on this little rectangle icon. If you can just drag a box and it'll create boxes, but if I delete these, what I want to do is drag a box holding Shift so it makes a perfect square. I'm holding Shift right now, and it locks it to always a perfect square. So this is kind of confusing too. Once you make a box, if you don't have any color selected or any line weight selected, you create a box, you create the geometry, but you don't see anything. If you select off of it, you can see that there's actually nothing there. It's just the geometry, but it still does exist. So select your box and give it a color, which is this little icon right here. Go ahead and make it green or blue or whatever you want, and then drag it into our little top bar, and I'm going to resize it to fit perfectly in there. So I now have a box fitting right along this guideline, and I'm going to go ahead and select it and copy, Control C, and paste, Control V, and line it up perfectly next to it. I'm going to give it a different color just so we can see where that line is. So we now have two perfect squares, and we're going to use these to place our images. If you select them both, Control C, Control V, you can go ahead and continue these all the way across. Oops. And you can just place, so what is that, 8 images? Like I said, we'll talk more about how many images you might need, but if you just want 8 perfectly square images, that's an easy way to lay it out. And then I'm going to go ahead and place an image. Say that one. It brings it in way too big, so scale it down, holding Shift, dragging a corner, and make it a little bit bigger. We don't want it to have any edges, but now, so it's in the general area that I want it, but it's still rectilinear. I want to crop it to that square. So what you have to do is right-click on the image and go to Arrange, Send to Back, and that's going to just send it to the back of the artboard so that our square is above it. And now I want to click the image, click the square, or sorry, I'll do that again. Click the image and hold Shift and click the square, so you get both of them selected at the same time. Or you can just drag a box over both of them and it'll select both, but make sure you don't get this box over here. So click, Shift, hold Shift, click again, so I have these two selected, the image and the box, and now right click and go Make Clipping Mask. And what that does is just, it takes the box that was there, it used to be the green box, it uses that to crop out the shape of the image behind it. So it looks like it deleted our whole image, don't worry, it's still there. If it didn't quite line up, you can just triple click or double click. Triple click, or yeah, click twice and then once more. And you can see our image is still there. We can move this around and all of the image data is still there. It's just being cropped out at the time by our square box. So if we want to make this image a little bigger and zoom in on the detail, or if you just want to have it consistent, I think you'll probably just want them all consistent so they look uniform. You can just do it like that and adjust it as you wish. To get out of this, it brings you into this little double editing mode. To get out, just click out here a couple times or hit Escape. Yeah, there we go, Escape. And somewhere in there I grabbed a different tool, so I just want to go back and select on my selection tool, which is also shortcut V. So now we have a nice square cropped image. I accidentally placed it too far. Let me get back in. So you can see if I place it out here and I click out, our box is still there, but the image behind it is placed too far out of it. So just make sure you get the full image in the square. Apologize for the trains. And yeah, you can continue doing that. I'll do one more real quick and then we'll do some text. Place that. That was just File, Place. Got the image. Drag this down. Arrange. Right click it. Arrange. Send to back. Now we want to click the box as well as holding Shift. Click the image behind it and go right click Make Clipping Mask, and you did it again. So you can still edit. Oops. Triple or double click and then click again. You can still edit the image, make it fit however you want, resize it, and then hit Escape to get out of that. I'm going to go ahead and turn off the grid for now, but that's how you lay out your images. And if that's like I said, I don't think you have to do this if you don't want with the squares, but that's probably the most clean way to do it. I'm going to turn off the grid, hide grid, and you can still see our guidelines there. And we'll do some text real quick. Text is just this little type tool. It's got the T icon. Just click that and drag a text box, which is supposed to be right here. And if I go ahead and start typing a bunch of stuff, you can see, I'll zoom in so you can see that. So it just stays within the confines of the box that you drew. And if you highlight it, you can change the font style and size and attributes of text. So we wanted Times New Roman, which is up here, just in this little selection box, Times New Roman. There it is. And we want it to be size 10, so just 10 point. And it resizes it for you. And we also want it to be double spaced. It's not quite like Word where you can just click like double space, but it's pretty similar if you just go click on character. And hopefully, like I said, hopefully this is in CS5 or CS3, whichever version you might be using. If you click this little blue font that says character, it'll bring up this menu. And this is the icon for spacing. Right now it's default to 12 because that's what the default text size is. Since we're using 10 point font size, we're going to want to double that for double spacing, which give us 20 point spacing, which doesn't pop up as an option, so you can just type in 20 and hit enter. And you'll see, oops, oh, there we go. I'll try that again. So select your text, character, type in 20, and there you go. That's double spaced, and if you continue typing now, it should double space for you. There you go. I think that's about it for now. We'll talk more in Thursday, and if you have any more questions, just let me know. And that's all.